Okay, verify and mute myself. So welcome to Infrastructure's group conversation. It's a short one because the topic is actually significant and there isn't really a whole lot else to talk about other than availability in the past few weeks. But I'm keeping an eye on the document as people post questions or have comments. And if not, I'll dive a little bit into the slides. So I'll go ahead and dive into the slides real quick to get the conversation started. But obviously the biggest events for us over the last few weeks have been the instability on GitHub.com. They've had very significant ramifications. We've done a fair amount of analysis on why we are where we are. And essentially we hit a ceiling on Redis, and there was a ton of work that happened in quick fashion to address that. And then we had some blind spots on observability, and also there is a ton of work ongoing to address that as well. One of the things that we noticed is that there was a cadence mismatch between development and infrastructure. Essentially, we introduced continuous delivery, and that sort of changed that cadence to be more of a daily or weekly thing versus the traditional monthly cadence, where development was in feature development for part of the month and then very focused on fixes. But with the introduction of continuous delivery, that cadence had to change. And we were a little late to align with development to make that change. So that's been addressed. And we in infrastructure need to sort of go back to basics and focus relentlessly on observable availability. And to do that, we're focused on we've kicked off this initiative to optimize or to maximize the observability of the infrastructure. And then we've built some channels with development to be able to expose issues to the development organization as soon as possible so they have time to maneuver and address them. I talk a little bit in detail on slide number 3 about the dashboards that we've created and the boards that we're using to manage these two initiatives. Let me go back to the document real quick.
I got the first one, Jerry. It might be a very quiet one, but I just figured get the conversation going. So first, thanks to the infrastructure team for all the hard work in the last month with all the outages and challenges. I know it's been a tough month, but I really appreciate all the hard work of everybody on that team. I just wanted to, it wasn't real jumped out at me, and I think I've seen the list somewhere, but if you could just kind of articulate what the areas that we're short on from an observability perspective, I'd love to hear it.
So I'll speak real quick, and then I can let Andrew speak more authoritatively about this. But essentially, we've known that Redis was a vertical component, very close capability component for a while. We've seen it sort of hit that ceiling, but we didn't react to it. And it was hard to pinpoint when this was going to become an issue. Andrew has done some work on creating 2 new metrics, a saturation metrics, and then a SAPDEC metrics, which is kind of a saturation apdex, which gives us better visibility into where those points are. And there are links to those dashboards. And we're also shifting a little bit more into capacity planning. So it's not just look at the metrics and see how things are going, but trying to be more proactive on where are we going to hit a wall, and making sure that we have awareness of those walls, not just in a sort of instinctive way or by looking at very specific racks, but in a more, I'll use a buzzword here, holistic way. So one of the dashboards that Andrew created is really devoted to capacity planning, and it looks at all the services and it's trying to evaluate their capacity and their saturation points.
Yeah, if I can just go into a little bit more detail on that. I think that several of the problems that we saw over the last month were like totally different problems in different parts of the code base or different parts of the system at least, but they all kind of shared a similar problem in that we had been really close to capacity in different parts of the system, and everything was working just fine because we were under capacity. And then we deployed a new piece of code into production, and we went from being like 98% at capacity to 100% at capacity. And then instead of things degrading gracefully, things started falling over in quite a bad way. And we were caught by surprise because, you know, the day before everything had been perfect. And so in the beginning, we were like, is this a single piece of code that's changed? And then we realized on multiple fronts, we were just really, really at capacity. And in some places, like with Redis, our immediate instinct was to just throw more CPU at the problem. But then we realized that we were pretty much, well, we are pretty much on the biggest machine that you can get in GCP. And because Redis is single-threaded, we pretty much can't scale up any more vertically. And so what Jerry was talking about with saturation is on lots of different metrics, we try to measure like how close to the top of that metric we are and how quickly we're growing. And then we can, with that, we can predict like what happens over the medium term. So we can say, well, like the number of Redis clients we have is at 50%, but at peak every day, we get 90%, and we're not too comfortable with that. And then with the saturation apdex, we basically say how much time are we spending each day in that uncomfortable zone, and is it growing and growing, and if so, like how much longer can we let it grow for? And that's where the capacity planning comes from. And we're doing this on lots of different metrics. We're doing it on memory metrics, we're doing it on CPU, on disk utilization, on disk IOPS, and so hopefully next time we can kind of feed back to the development teams in advance and early enough that, hey, there's this code, it's not very efficient, can you optimize it before we reach that peak?
Thank you, Andrew. So maybe there are no questions or comments. I can actually just share my screen and show the triage board with development and discuss it a little bit. Let me go open it real quick. Share screen. So this is the dashboard that we use with development to drive issues that we see in GitLab.com that are likely to become problems. And we try to keep this dashboard really clean and very sparse. So we only highlight very important things that we know will eventually affect GitLab.com. Obviously, right now it looks kind of busy because we just started using this last week, and it was in response to the incidents over the past couple of weeks. We have a weekly meeting where we discuss these items and we make sure that they get attention and that they're prioritized and based on severity as well, so that we can make sure that these things get addressed. So just as you were saying, Christopher, I'm super thankful for the work that development has been doing in helping us deal with these issues. And I think this board is probably one of the most important things we're going to do this year to make sure that GitLab.com stays up and running. Stop sharing now. No more questions. Well, if there are no more questions and comments, Trevor, are we okay to finish this early?
Absolutely.
Okay.
We'll see everyone at the company call.
All right. Thank you so much.